To be clear, this is not a brag. This is not a flex. In fact, I know many other streamers who have spent way more than I have, but I'll give you a look behind the scenes at my $7,000 live streaming setup and even break down all the price points. Before we do jump into that, you should know a couple of things out the get-go. Number one, this gear comes from 5 years of slowly investing. I didn't buy all this stuff all at once. I'm not that friggin' crazy. Number two, it's not all state-of-the-art tech and could definitely be better or worse, but it works for me. And lastly, all these prices include taxes, and I rounded up in most instances. Let's start out with pretty much where it all starts, the ALIENWARE AURORA R7. Now, I bought this probably back, let me think here, in 2017 to 2018, and it ran me about $1,722. Now, it wasn't the base model. I actually had a few upgrades, but to be honest with you, I will tell you the only thing that I remember of all those stuff, because I'm not a big tech head, my brother is, was I wanted to have more internal storage because of all the videos that I do. So I ended up getting an upgraded hard drive with about an additional terabyte. So it was about 2 terabytes of extra storage. Now, more recently, I picked up the Western Digital 2 terabyte solid state drive card. It was super simple putting it on into there. That ran me about $100. Now, also what I installed in there was the ELGATO game capture card. That's because from time to time, maybe I want to plug in a console, or in some instances, I want to work on my Mac and stream what I'm showing on my Mac there. So that Elgato game capture card really helps out. And also there was some instances where I had some VHS videos that I was able to just plug in the VCR into the HDMI and record it through the Elgato game capture card. But at any rate, that ran me about $180. I'm sure I'll probably be upgrading the AURORA R7 pretty soon, probably throwing in a little extra RAM, maybe another solid state drive of some sort, but a large chunk of what I invested is inside the actual computer hardware. Let's go ahead over into the monitors, because I've got 3 in total. My first one is the AOC 27-inch monitor, and I can tell you the exact model, but to be honest with you, like, I'm lazy. It ran me about $193 over at Micro Center. Now, it is 1080p with a refresh rate of 144 hertz, which means it's high quality. It's really good. It's easy on your eyes, and since I work for long periods of time, I really want to make sure the refresh rate is as high as humanly possible without breaking the bank. Now, we're going to walk it back though, because my top monitor is an AOC 24-inch monitor. Now, that ran me about $107. It is 1080p with the slight catch that it is 60 hertz refresh rate. That's okay, because that is more of like my junk monitor. I put all the stuff that just needs to be held onto, and I'm not necessarily using it for the sake of watching for hours at a time. Now, the big king daddy of them all is going to be my ASUS 27-inch monitor. It is 4K. Ran me about $840. It was the most pricey of all these monitors, but it's probably my most favorite. It does come in 4K, and of course you can, downscale that to 1080p. But when you're going at 4K, it will only give you a refresh rate of up to 122 hertz, which is still fantastic. Please don't get me wrong. But when you go up to 1080p, it does a refresh rate of 144 hertz, which is not bad. And the main reason for using it is because I really like to record and stream in 4K. Now, I don't always stream in 4K, but sometimes I do. But for the most part, it does give me that flexibility, because without that 4K monitor, I don't have that ability to record at that high level. All right, so all 3 of these monitor mounts goes onto this tri-monitor mount that ran me about $59. It's super sturdy, really, really nice, and it holds a lot of cables, as you'll see here on the screen. Now, let's go on over to what I'm talking into right now. This is SHURE SM7B. You've probably seen on, like, say, the Joe Rogan Experience or any number of other podcasters and such. This ran me a pretty penny, about $448. Picked that up over at Micro Center, again, kind of like a couple of my monitors. Supporting it is the GATOR Frameworks mic boom. Now, this was one of those instances that I just saw other people using it, so I went for it, and I really kind of like it. You could probably find something a bit cheaper than this $130 one, but how sturdy is it going to be remains to be seen. I really like it for its flexibility, and when I put it into a place, it's going to stay there until I otherwise move it. There's been some times where I've clunked my head against it when I got up and I forgot that it was above my head. All right, next up, this is actually plugged into the CLOUDLIFTER CL1. Now, I actually have two cables going from the GATOR boom over into the CLOUDLIFTER. So that was the nice thing, is this actually came with the built-in XLR, so that made life a little bit easy. It goes into that Cloud CL1, and then from there, there's another XLR cable I had to pay for, and that goes directly over to my audio interface. I'll get to that in just a second. The CLOUDLIFTER essentially is a mic activator. It boosts the signal without raising the noise floor too much. So I kind of like that. At about $173, it was a tall ask, but I had so many of my peers say, hey, you got to get that. It will make it sound so much better. I've tried it with and without, and to be honest with you, I can't imagine going without it because it just, you have to boost the audio incredibly. And speaking of audio interface, I'm using the Zoom H6. Now, I bought a full kit, but that's a regret purchase now because I really only needed the Zoom H6. All these other extra things, like it gave me a battery pack and stuff that I will never use because all I needed was the Zoom H6 and the cable to go ahead and plug it in. The stand is kind of nice that came with it, but all in all, it ran me about $391. You could probably get it a little closer to the $300 mark nowadays for the Zoom H6 Black, which came out in, I think, 2020. I also keep on standby two lavaliers. It's the MOVO LV402. Now, the reason why I have those two mics is in the event that I have, say, for instance, my brother here in studio, or I'm having my wife with me on camera, we're able to both have microphones, and I'm not just sitting here dominating everything with my face right in front of this microphone. The MOVO runs about $81. I will tell you this, that they are sturdy. I have broken the first pair I actually had. They just got wore out after a while. Now I don't use them as much, and I did have a replacement plan that I put on it over through Amazon for 3 years, so if things go south, I'll just go ahead and get it replaced. Let's go over to my favorite device, the Elgato Stream Deck. Now, this is just kind of a guilty pleasure. I like pressing buttons when I'm doing live streaming. It just makes everything super, super easy. It runs about $162. Now, this is the mid model, the original model, if you will. They've actually upgraded to a certain extent where the base is actually integrated with the Stream Deck as opposed to separate from it. I really wish I had one of those, but here we are. It still works just fine. Now, because I'm such a huge Elgato fanboy, of course I got Elgato key lights, 2 of them to be exact. That actually ran me about $452. Now, you can, of course, adjust the brightness. You can adjust the saturation. It can go real blue or it can go real orange, however you wish to. You can actually have it installed on your computer through the control center, or I believe they actually have an app for your phone that you can control it that way. I've never used it like that because I'm honestly just here at my desk, so I can probably use that. Now, speaking of desk, oh my goodness. This is probably one of those ones that I think it was just luck. I just happened to find the right type of desk that would adjust. This is the FLEXISPOT standing desk. It ran me about $142. I can sit down, I can sit on a bar stool, and I can even stand up, kind of like what I'm doing here in this video right now. It makes life so much easier. And it's, you know, I'll tell you, after you sit for a while, your back starts to feel it. FLEXISPOT's got you covered, but here's the cool thing. All this equipment that I'm talking about is on this desktop here. Now, I'm probably pushing the weight limit, I'm sure, but so far it hasn't broken down on me, and I've been using it for, gosh, over a year now. All right, so let's go over to how I'm recording this. This is the Sony a6400. Now, I got this, again, this is a regret purchase. I really wish I would have just stuck with just the body of the a6400, but I ended up getting a kit that came along with a bag and a couple of lenses and cleaners and batteries and memory cards. Now, some of those things, definitely, it's good to have extra batteries on the side. I did end up purchasing a dummy battery. Now, just thinking about it, I didn't include it in all this stuff. Either way, though, it ran me about $1,610. Woo-wee, yeah, 1610. Now, this is, of course, if I would have gone and just bought the body, it probably would have just ran me about $800. If I got it used, possibly about $600. Now, here's a warning. If you do put it in 4K, it does only go 30 frames per second, and it will overheat after an hour. Sony is usually really good about not overheating, but for whatever reason, if you try to stream beyond that amount of time or record beyond an hour, it's kind of up in the air because it will just shut down. Now the nice thing is you just leave it off for about 10 minutes, let it cool down. It's usually pretty good. Probably the only other solution is to put an office fan on it, and that would just be weird and create a lot of unnecessary noise. Now attached to the Sony a6400, I have a Sigma lens that ran me about $406. That's what creates that depth of field that I have here, where you see that the background is blurred. Now they're starting to really get good with technology, and I'm super excited to try out the Sony ZV-E10 because they have that automatically built in to the ZV-E10, and you don't need to have a Sigma lens, although Sigma lenses I'm sure I would probably still use nonetheless. But it just goes to show you can get that blurry background with some more updated Sony cameras out there. Let's go over to the Elgato CamLink 4K that's actually plugged into my Sony right into the computer. Now the Elgato CamLink 4K, it runs about $130. This just gets it to where whatever I'm doing on my camera is completely readable over on the PC. Now it does need a separate mini HDMI to HDMI connector. I didn't have that come along with my package, nor did I have it come along with the whole CamLink 4K, so that was an additional investment. I don't think it was any more than about 10 to 15 bucks. And then next up is the Sony headphones. Now I used to be big about trying to do earbuds, but for some reason my cavernous ear canals just can't hold on to some of those things, so I just stick with the over-ear headphones. Sony's fantastic at about 60 bucks. It's got plenty of thump. It's perfect for any time that I want to Zoom chat or have an interview live on one of my channels. And last but not least, this gigantic black mat that's sitting right up on top of my desk. It's an oversized mouse pad put together by a company, and I'm forgetting their name right now. I got it for $0. I picked it up over at Dave & Buster's with some tickets I'd won. And I thought, man, this thing wasn't going to be worth a darn, but it's kind of cool. You know, you can adjust the lights on it. You can turn it on and off if you want to. It kind of helps cover this big white surface, so there's a little less reflection coming from the lights down onto the table and getting me all washed out. I'm white enough as it is here, folks. So the total cost, all in all, with all the things I'd mentioned and probably missing a couple of things, it's about $7,387. You know, that's not including things like the LEDs underneath my desk, the cable management sleeves, command hooks holding those things up, and various other things under the desktop. What part did you like best about my live streaming setup? Would you do anything differently? Let me know inside the comments. I literally want to hear your legitimate opinion. And if you think it's complete trash, go for it, man. You're entitled to your opinion, for sure. And check out this next video where we look inside the ALIENWARE AURORA R7, and Walt shows you all those features that I couldn't really tell you anything about. See you there.